let's get back to the game. We started off with some drama from the jump. Sweden came out swinging, which I love the commentator saying the game is going to be won and lost in those first few minutes. And Sweden was one of those teams that came out so strong. From the second minute, Asllani picked up a poor pass from Jess Carter, initially has the good pressure, gets going in front of goal, puts it away, brilliant finish. Stina Blackstenius gets another one in the 25th minute, and then late in the match, the super subs come in and make a huge difference for England to tie it up. But looking at this, although they went to penalties, although it was a drawn-out game that could have been done in 90 minutes, do you think that this gives England the up and up going against Italy, coming back from a 2-goal deficit like that and then getting the dub in penalties, McCall? Do you think that gives them an extra edge?
I mean, the way they started the match, I was not confident for them at all. They looked inferior. They looked like they didn't have confidence, and their attitudes on the ball, off the ball, and their performance just was not good enough in the first half and even half of the second half as well. So for them to know that they did not put their best foot forward and then still come out, claw that back, get the win, get themselves onto the next round. Yeah, of course, that gives you more confidence, and hopefully they're like, let's not do that again.
Lori, is it the same for you that, that's a big lesson learned going forward, but that maybe we'll see a lot of changes going into the match against Italy, who's also a team that this group said passion's going to win over the group talent, and they proved that.
Yeah, I think it really is. That is the difference. I mean, I love that you said it like the beginning of the game, because we were all talking about it before, studio, us, and these games are all about just the smallest little details, right? It's like, yes, you want to get tactics right, but it's all about togetherness. It's about fighting for one another, putting in tackles, doing what you can to disrupt play. And that's why I actually thought Sweden had their game plan perfect. And then I thought, okay, out of possession, even the second half when they weren't attacking as much, it didn't look labored. They looked like they were doing it together. They were stalling, limiting the strengths of England. But to your question, my concern right now for England is, one, you have to regroup quickly after just playing 30 extra minutes plus, because let's be honest, it was more like 45. And then also going to penalty kicks. But you have Leah Williamson that goes down. I thought her ankle was broken. So to see her back on the field, that is at least promising.
Yeah.
Lauren James was hobbling around at the end, right? And then also there is this aspect of, okay, you make it through penalties, and you have to have the short-term memory as possible, because some of your crucial players have just missed penalty kicks, and that's nervy within itself, and you cannot allow that to stay with you. So while, yes, I think them being able to come back and having the ability to be like, okay, we were down 2-0. We're the first team in European Championship history to come back from that deficit and then advance. No one's ever done that. All of that should give you seemingly more confidence. But does it? I don't know. I mean, like, Italy is going to come out of their game being like, we're awesome. We just put this, we just beat Norway. Girelli, our leading goal scorer, put 2 away, right? So to me, it's about regrouping and seeing who's available for England for them to be able to come in. They should have, they've been in the rhythm of this, right? But it's going to be like, what does this team look like come next Tuesday?
Well, go ahead, McCall.
I was going to say, I also love Italy's belief and fearlessness, which is kind of the opposite of what England showed today. They look like they're a little bit timid, a little bit scared, and Italy is like so confident, balls to the wall, coming out with their game plan, taking risks, have the ability to play different formations. And, so I think it's kind of like opposites meeting.
And they press, right? The press. That's been an issue for England, trying to play out of the back when teams press them. Exactly like France in the first game. Sweden came out, and I imagine Italy was going to try to take their chances that way too.
Well, looking today, if I'm Italy looking at this match and looking at how Sweden pressed them from the jump, and to me, England's weakest spot was defensively. They looked shocked.
So who would you put in there instead? Would you start Esme?
I think she showed some calmness. I think she showed like she had her things together. When Blackstenius was running her down, when they had Sweden had fresh legs coming in, going at her, I think she did well botting off. I actually think playing in the NWSL was a really big asset going against fast forwards that want to run by you, that aren't afraid of that physical part. I think she stood out. But I don't even know what putting her in is putting her in the best position, because it just seems like the confusion is amongst the entire back line. Lucy Bronze was in weird positions in the game that she looked exposed. Alex Greenwood looked kind of all over the place. Jess Carter, who we know is one of the most consistent defenders in the NWSL and in the WSL when she was at Chelsea, looked in shambles in the match. Like they didn't have the right options. I don't know if you guys felt the same.
Yeah. I don't know if England will, I don't know if Sarina Wiegman, and I would probably put money on that she won't change to a 3-back, even though we saw that through a part of that match in the second half. But depending on who's available, if Leah Williamson, because who was it on the back line? You had Lucy Bronze, because then they switched back into extra time to a 4-back. So you had Lucy Bronze, you had Esme Morgan, Greenwood had shifted in, and then Neve Charles. That's the 4. But that is like Esme Morgan and Neve Charles with very limited minutes in this tournament. Maybe that's beneficial. And then you have Greenwood, who's can anchor that back line centrally. And then you still get the threat of Lucy Bronze going forward on the right side. Maybe that's the best bet if you have Leah Williamson still injured. But I do think there's a place for Jess Carter and her experience. Wasn't her best game, but I think mentally she could bounce back from that. She's important, right? But I do think it depends on what that looks like. If they play a 3-back, get Jess Carter back in there. If not, I'll have to see who's available.
How hard is it to overcome when you have such a poor performance like she did? Because she was giving away poor passes that created goal scoring opportunities. One resulted in the actual first goal. Yeah. How hard is it to overcome that mentally? McCall, let's start with you. When you're in a tournament like this and you're going on to the next game, like you said, Lori, it's quick. You have to have short-term memory, but that sits with you. Those moments.
You're hungry. Yeah, you're hungry to redeem yourself. At the same time, you know that you're capable of having a below level performance. And so you just don't want to repeat that again. So it is that mental battle of not letting those negative thoughts creep in, but you also do need to be very locked in and focused, because see what happens when you aren't up to the task. You make a early mistake into the game. And then not that she crumbled, but I just think that with the pace and everything that was coming at her, she was trying her best. She just could not keep up.
Yeah. I do want to say one thing, though, in defense of Jess Carter in that back line, because they have been at times when they've been pressed. Again, we've been talking about the France game, the very first game that they lost, and this game, too, because there's very similar setups between those two oppositions. But it does put those center backs in precarious positions when there's not outlets. There's not availability. The first game, Stanway playing some of her first minutes after being gone and out for a long-term injury. It's just the rotations aren't there in the midfield that you need to start this game. And it really does make it difficult for those center backs when you are being tasked with being the playmakers. And we saw even Leah Williamson playing just so many direct balls through the midfield that were so predictable. And Sweden knew that, right? So listen, we've all seen Jess Carter a ton, and we know her quality and like the ceiling that she has. So it was a poor performance, if we're being honest. But at the same time, it's not all to do with just those backs. They have to kind of sort out some of these solutions, because Italy's going to look at this game too and say, okay, this is how we set up. Clog the midfield. Don't let them penetrate in those areas, or make it predictable with straight balls, but force them out wide, right? And then it becomes so easily defended in those moments if you get the timing right.
We also have to give Sweden credit on their press. I think that was
that was tremendous. Yeah,
it was incredible, and they didn't give England enough time on the ball, options to get anywhere. The kind of dark arts of playing where you're bumping a player as they're trying to run into space, so then you're hyper aware, and especially in the middle of the pitch, that it's not available. But to me, the biggest change is I was wondering when the subs were coming.
Yeah.
And Michelle Agiman came in. Were you surprised that was the first sub she made into the attack? Well, the young 19-year-old.
Do you want to answer that, McCall?
Chloe Kelly for me was the one that came on and made the difference right away. And so I'm like, these are headaches now, right? Because I don't think she's going to start Chloe Kelly, but then Chloe Kelly still needs to come off with that same fire from the bench. And if you don't feel like you're rewarded for that performance, she might not have that same fire coming off of the bench next game, because she feels like maybe she earned her starting spot now. So these can be really difficult dynamics amongst a team.
Yeah. I also, I'm in such agreement with Agiman and the impact that she had. I mean, she came on in that France game too, and created a spark in a way that, like, she just wants to pounce on loose balls. She wants to make her presence known. And I actually felt like she was freeing up Russo so much, because Russo was having to do this similar job, but then now you get a fresh legs on in that moment, and she's battling, creating loose chances in the box, and then I mean, I agree with you in that, McCall, in terms of Chloe Kelly and the service to that back post was just dynamite to bronze. But that's what you want.
Do you guys see them potentially starting in the next match against Italy? I mean, they were true game changers.
Yeah, I
to
don't
me.
see that.
No,
With Sarina Wiegman, just her history, didn't change one lineup in the 2022. Went with the exact same lineup every single game. Barely makes subs, known for making subs late. And all of us in the booth were being like, you got to make some changes. Just get fresh legs on.
that's what I was
doesn't
wondering.
even matter. It doesn't have to be tactical. Just
do it
fresh
earlier
legs.
next
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't have to
But I do
change the
think-
lineup. Do it earlier. Give them more minutes. Reward them. You know?
I think the changes we're going to see are going to have to do with more injury based. But I think they've shown that these players are impact players, and I think she'll still start to bring them off the bench in that regard.
Before we move on to talking about Sweden and what this tournament meant for this team, what it means going forward, I want to ask you both about Hannah Hampton, because there was so much talk, especially from last Euros, Mary Earps balling out, really Ballon d'Or, everything. And now she's retired from the team. Hannah Hampton stepped in. And to me, there's always been so much chatter and doubt about her. And if she can fill the shoes that Mary Earps left, if she can really be dominant in goal as much as she was. And to me, this match proved that Hannah Hampton is there to stay. I think she made a name for herself from here on out going forward. Did you guys get that same vibe?
I mean, what an intro into the tournament. Like, you need to be tested to prove what you got. And she made a couple of big saves today and then straight into a shootout in the first knockout round of the tournament. That's where you show what you can do, and not only her ability, but her mentality. And I thought she did a really great job today.
Yeah, she's just grown throughout this tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've seen her in possession ability. One of the first goal against Netherlands, her just like driving that 50-yard ball that I was like, okay, you should be an outfielder maybe, but great job with your hands as well. But I think one of the questions today was her ability and her confidence coming off her crosses, because that has been a strength of Sweden. We didn't really see that till late in the second half, or maybe even extra time. But she did. She came out confidently. She had defenders around her. And those are little building blocks, I feel like, as a goalkeeper, because, for a lot of goalkeepers, it's about buying your time so much in your career. And she's getting at the age of 24. So stepping up, even though she's still extremely young, and really patrolling that back line and helping out, and came up big today when they need it. And that's awesome. Love to see that.
And her understanding and reading of the game. When Lauren James is triple teamed and you don't have, any passes in the midfield, then she went for long range passes and just kind of like clearing her lines a little bit, which is like, okay, good. You're reading the tempo. You're reading what the game needs.
Yeah, I think sometimes we see goalkeepers that are just committed to the game plan of like, oh, we're going to play in the middle, just find the pocket and play the player. And it's like, the game's not asking for that anymore.
We're all like, don't do that.
Yeah, please. I don't want it. I do not give me the ball. I know I'm moving. Don't give me the ball. But I think that's where we've seen her grow, is her decision making. We already knew she had the tools to play out of the back, put a ball on a dime, make good saves, but it's all kind of coming together throughout this tournament. So I've loved that. I can't wait to see her ball out against Italy. But let's move over to Sweden. 4 matches for Sweden in this tournament. I thought they looked like the strongest team until about the 70th minute in this match. But what's maybe the biggest takeaways from Sweden throughout this tournament, Lori, that you've picked up from watching them?
Well, first of all, I'm like, some of these players I was playing when they played. So I was like, they have so much experience. I'm like, what is happening here? But then also, I mean, I love the way that the Sweden team plays. They've been committed. There is a lot of experience. They've really drilled the way that they want to play. And Aslani and Blackstenius, I mean, those two players are headaches. You get Blackstenius stretching the lines. Aslani is happy to play underneath her. And it's so difficult. And we saw that in the first half, especially, that it's so difficult to defend. But I feel for them. I really feel for them, because it did feel like this was the year that, with the experience, the togetherness, making it out of their group, the way they started this game, it's just challenging. But to your point about the 70th minute, the thing that was interesting about this game is you could feel the tempo increase for England, especially once they made the subs, right?
Once they got desperate. But they need to play into the desperation all the time.
Exactly.
From the jump.
I felt like, if you're Sweden, you stay the course. Like they did such a good job, even up until that point in time. And even within the last 20 minutes, I felt like they were really committed together defensively. They put 2 or 3 players around Lauren James. England couldn't fix that. But it's tough because I wouldn't have really said change much. It was just at the last second when England does get desperate, it was hard for then Sweden to be able to adjust to that tempo as well. They were in complete control, but just that littlest shift and the loose balls that now with the momentum England was willing to pounce on and get on the end of, that was a slight adjustment that they just couldn't get ahead on. And that essentially cost them the game, because then even though in the extra time, there were still opportunities for them, just didn't have the same feel of domination that they had early on in that game.
Yeah. McCall, for you, looking forward at, Sweden being a World Cup team, a renowned team, a team that you worry playing against because of the weapons that they have up top, can make something out of nothing. What are some positives they can take as a team from the last 4 matches in the Euros going forward against big competition?
Julia Zerboni Ome. She is just that
legit
in midfield, and she's so unsung. The things she does, you don't really notice, but she clogs up so much space. She breaks up plays. She was chasing Lauren James around and basically canceled her out.
Shut her out
so much, and she has a bright future with Sweden, still has an elongated career with them, whereas I don't know how much longer we're going to see Asllani, but with Blackstenius up there coming back, always creating threat up top, and then with Olme in that midfield and strong center backs, they have a great spine about them. Sweden's not going to go away for a long time. They're going to be very good for a long time, but like you said, they're a little bit older, Lori, so they're going to have some turnover in their personnel, but there are still some bright young spots that I just mentioned, like Olme and Blackstenius, that are going to keep going.
And Tony Gustafsson, who a lot of American players will know, he was our assistant from 2011 through 2019, and then also, or maybe 2010, I can't remember, but then also just most recently Australia's through their 2023 World Cup. But he's going to be taking over after this tournament, so there will be a new flavor in that regard as well. So I think after 9 years at the helm, it's a welcome change regardless.
Yeah, Tony was very loved by most of the U.S. players. He's great. He's really good.
I love this. I love that we're seeing other federations and countries just grow. The competition is so thick now with national teams at the senior level, and I absolutely love it. It's just making the game better. But before we jump to our next segment, take a little bit of a break, let's talk about Sweden not Sweden. Sweden's on my mind. England versus Italy in the semifinals, July 22nd. Of course, your girls will be recapping it here on Attacking Third. But looking at this match, looking at the last performances from these teams, who do you guys give the leg up to going against each other?
Laura?
Well, okay. This is a really tough one because I guess I am interested in these injuries and what that looks like for England, even though they have some time. So that is, for me, going to be a big factor. Because if you don't have Leah Williamson, who's your captain, somebody on the back line, that actually generates a wrinkle everywhere else in who you play. But I also think the experience of England, having played one in 2022, playing in the final against Spain in 2023 of the World Cup, that can't be overstated on how important that is. Whereas Italy, yes, passion, they have belief, but the thing that has concerned me a little bit about Italy at times in this tournament is management of games, the full 90 minutes. They let teams back in, or there's times when they're trying to play this slower tempo that doesn't totally suit them. Against Norway, they were trying to bring the ball back and then try to create slower attacks. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not your game. That hasn't been successful. So it's just there does feel like this game management that I'm a little bit concerned about. And that's where I would give England the upper hand in this situation, regardless of who's available, because obviously there's depth there. So that's probably my most basic answer without going into some wild.
What about your score prediction?
Ooh. I had 3-2 England winning over Sweden in this game. I was like, come on, is this going to happen?
Yeah.
But for Italy, England, 2 goals is the most goals that Italy scored in one game all tournament. Maybe 2-1 England. Yikes!
Okay.
That makes me really nervous. So I feel nervous because it just feels early after this game, and I'm like,
it's very fresh. I know. I'm putting us all under the spotlight. I'm gonna go last, so I have time to think and can weigh out what you guys said. So McCall, who do you give the edge to, and what's your score prediction?
Okay, something that has to be mentioned is England has more depth. They definitely have more firepower off the bench and options. Even if they do have injuries, they still have more experience on their roster at higher tournaments, high level play. But Italy has had more rest. So I
Yeah.
think sometimes that can cancel it out in a tournament where you play every 2 or 3 days. You're starting to get heavy and tired legs. Recovery is at a maximum. I just still think there's an edge and a class that the English players have from having high level football at a longer period of time in their country. And so I just think they know how to win, and they know that they're high level footballers, and they want to continue to grow their clout and their worth. And Italy's still trying to prove themselves, whereas England has this stature already that they're going to maintain. And I think it will be 2-1.
2-1 England as well.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Right, same page.
Do I ride with the crew? I'm looking at this. McCall, I think that's such a good point. I think that Italy, I agree. They're still trying to prove themselves. And even if will be a good match against England, they should be very, very proud of their performances in this tournament and getting to where they got. Whereas I think if England loses, it's a failure. It's not good enough. So to me, especially after this match, with the belief you have in your team after coming down from a 2-goal deficit, winning in penalties, you have the depth. I'm also going with England, but Lori, I'm going to take your prediction from last match. I'm going to go 3-2 England. I think it's going to be, I think we're going to get goals, which we all love.